This is a video review for Transformers Animated Shockwave / Longarm Prime. If you've seen Transformers Animated, you know Shockwave is a double agent. He transforms from Shockwave to Longarm Prime, and then they each have their own vehicle modes. This is Shockwave's tank mode. I think it's pretty decent, but I don't like how gappy it is, because a real tank, if it had all these gaps, would be extremely vulnerable to explosives, because imagine if an explosive got into this crevice here, it would blow everything in there apart. And the basic design of this tank mode just makes it not a very solid tank mode from a practical standpoint. Although from a just pure aesthetic standpoint, it doesn't look bad, although I wish there were more stuff back here, which is why I typically have the cannon pointed this way to distract from the void. Now, to transform this to the Longarm Prime alt mode, you will take the legs and bend them down, then take the shoulder pads, do the same thing there, fold these up, and then flip this down to show the crane. And here we have Longarm Prime's vehicle mode, which is a crane. And I'm not in love with this alt mode, but it's not bad. In fact, I'm not in love with either of this guy's alt modes, but considering that this toy's purpose is to go from the Longarm Prime robot mode to the Shockwave robot mode, and does that very well, these alt modes are basically just token alt modes. They're there so we can have an alt mode, and for all they're intended to be, I can accept them, but they're nothing special. Now, to transform this guy to... let's go to Longarm Prime first. Take this off. Don't need to take it off, but it tends to get in the way. And then flatten everything out. And then turn them around, and you can basically see where everything is. Fold out the Autobot symbol. Fold out the hands. Pop the arms away from the body. These little holes here tab on over these little black bits here. Fold these up against his side. And then just leave them up there for now. Take the legs, fold them down, pull out the feet, do the same to the other side. And then you will split the legs at this hip joint here, and then you will bring them down and around like this. Then you'll take the shoulders, bring them down to the side, fold this back. Then you'll take these things on his elbow, pop them out, and then lay them flat over his forearm. Get them all posed up, and we have Longarm Prime in robot mode. And I do really like this robot mode. It looks unique and interesting. I can't really pinpoint any one thing about it. I like it just as a whole, it works for me. And then you can take the crane and plug it onto his back. And that completes the look. Now for Poseability, his arms can rotate around 360 and go in and out, although the up and down joint here is before this, so it's not the best joint possible, because you end up getting motion like this rather than a more traditional one where you could, say, get the arm to bend back around like this, have it bend away like this. Then you have a bicep swivel here, and 90 degrees at the elbow, and then the hand here can rotate 360 and bend in. There's no articulation in the head because of how the head has to transform. Then the legs go forward, back, in, out, bends at the knee and rotates below the knee, and then you can kind of move the heel and toe, although that tends not to be very useful. Now, one thing that I really like about this is that in the show, Longarm Prime had the ability to extend his limbs. That was kind of his gimmick, and you can do that here. And this basically feeds into the Shockwave transformation. So you pull these down, and then you pull these down and split them, and then you take these sort of Jodhpur looking things and bring them up, and they will clip around these gray pieces, which will solidify, well, kind of solidify all the joints up in here, so he gets more of a solid leg. And then this is Longarm Prime with the long limbs. And I really like how he can do this, because this is something he did on the show, and it's something that doesn't seem like the toy should be able to do, even though it is part of the Shockwave transformation. So, you have basically the same Poseability, although the hip joint here is a different joint, but it has the same basic range. Now, to transform the Shockwave, what you want to do is you want to take these, the elbows, put them straight, rotate the hand down, then take these and pull them out, and rotate this up, and do the same to the other side. And I really like the hand transformation here. It's really clever, and it really makes the upper arms look different. Turn around to the Decepticon symbol, bend the waist, and rotate around the lower legs to give him sort of like goat hoof feet. I do like how this guy ends up looking kind of demonic. Then you'll pull the head forward out like this, then you take these antlers, pull them out, and all that's left now is to take the gun and deploy it, and then we have Shockwave in robot mode. And I really like that transformation, and I really like how Shockwave looks. And I do think that this is he's sort of big, so I'm having a little bit of trouble keeping him on camera. I do really think that his disguise is effective. And to demonstrate what I mean, I have the Target exclusive purple Shockwave, and look at the difference between what Longarm Prime looks like and Shockwave looks like. And it is a huge difference. I mean, considering that in Transformers Animated the body types were kind of shared a lot, the few similarities these guys have, like they do have treads and then the chest looks kind of similar, are easily hand-waved by that, because they do look extremely different, and I'm very impressed by this. Although, I did miss a step, although I did that intentionally. There is one last thing you can do to Shockwave to make him look different, which is to bring his shoulders up like this. But I typically don't like doing that, because that really interferes with his articulation if you bend this up to his head. So, I typically like to leave these down like this. And I think that still looks perfectly fine. It's a perfectly acceptable difference between these two. Now, Shockwave's articulation is basically the same. Actually, exactly the same, except that you get some finger articulation here, and the elbow joint here has changed so that he has this inward bend here on the arm. Other than that, and the increased head articulation, there's not much difference here between the Longarm to Longarm Prime mode and this Shockwave. One thing I really like about this guy is just how well the light piping works. I mean, this is fantastic light piping. This is what every figure who has light piping should be like. And of course, what would Shockwave be without his cannon? Unfortunately, it doesn't actually merge with his arm, it just sort of sits in his hand. And not even really sits in his hand, it sits on this peg right here above his hand. And then you kind of have to pose the fingers to make it look decent. And because it's so heavy, he does... Yeah, this figure, he's an animated figure, so all the joints are kind of loose, which is unfortunate. And then the gun's heavy, so I prefer just leave the gun on his back or just not there at all. The gun isn't really important to this figure, although Shockwave typically should have a gun. So I do like this figure, but because it is an animated figure, the plastic is soft, and he does have balance issues because he doesn't have quite the right posability in his legs to keep him balanced, especially because in Longarm Prime mode, this was his heel, which was a great heel, but now this is his heel, which doesn't really serve the purpose quite as well. So he has his problems, but he is an interesting figure, and I think just as a fiddle piece to transform between Longarm and Shockwave, he's a great figure. I don't think he's a great toy. I don't think he's quite a great figure, just because of the balance and plastic issues. So I do recommend him, but I wouldn't pay too much for him. I reviewed Transformers, Power Rangers, Brave figures, just a ton of stuff. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.